Guys, and welcome to another Paper 3 Unit 4 video about people, places and networks. In this video we'll be considering the time-space continuum. In this video we'll be thinking about how time and space are shrinking. This is closely linked to Unit 3, which looks at global trends in resource consumption. An SDG that you might like to link this to is number 9, industry, innovation and infrastructure. Remarkably, when we think about digital flows, that's the flows in information, effectively 20 years ago, it really was non-existent or very, very small. Now, the flow of data and information around the world is absolutely massive, and it's a very, very strong driver to the growth in GDP. This helps in the trade of goods, and as a global institution, digital globalization does help less economically developed countries, or those countries outside the G20, for example, to develop. It's opening up those opportunities. So here you can have a link as well to the reduction of poverty. So it's opening up those links with other countries. The global data flows has enabled countries like China and Vietnam to make it much easier to enter into businesses in the global forum. Today, a more digital form of globalization has started to open up the door for those developing countries. So small companies and startups in countries like China, Vietnam, Thailand, etc., they have the opportunity and access to cater for billions of customers around the world via the internet. So here we're talking about lots of small startups, tens of millions of small companies and mid-sized enterprises going worldwide. The fight between Amazon and Alibaba would be a very, very good example of this. Alibaba is a comparatively recent entry into the market. And we also have to remember as well that we do tend to overstate the roles of transnational corporations. Of course, transnational corporations are a significant part of the global economy, but this has seen the growth of data networks and the growth of networks in general has enabled the small to medium-sized companies to become much more significant, and sometimes competing on direct terms with these transnational corporations. So as we said before, a big thing is about internet trading and that access to data networks, global data networks with virtually free data connectivity has enabled e-commerce to create this shrinking world. E-commerce is, just in a nutshell, the process of buying and selling products by electronic means such as mobile applications and the internet. E-commerce refers to both online retail as well as electronic transactions. So again, you can see that this is linked to SDG 9, industry, innovation and infrastructure. So we can see this tight link between industry, innovation and the data network and the data infrastructure that we have in the world. Again, we'll emphasize that link with Unit 3, global trends in resource consumption. We really are living in quite a different world now, and it's rapidly changing. And when we start thinking about those global flows of information, and particularly e-commerce and e-payments, Alipay is a really, really good example. Alipay, as you probably know, started off in China, but now it's actually become a global enterprise, and as you can see from this map, is available in lots of countries around the world. So my error at the start of the video was because of my fascination for science fiction when I talked about the time-space continuum. In fact, what we're talking about here is a shrinking time and space. You'll remember from our previous units of work the concept of distance decay. That's the interaction between two cities decreases as the space between those cities increases, and it becomes more difficult to travel between them. In the data transfer world, there is really no distance decay. If there is any decay, this is due to access to broadband internet connections and stable data connections. So distance decay at least in the digital world, doesn't really exist. And this is quite shaping the political landscape and the economic landscape of the world. You will have come across, or your parents would have come across, call centres. When you call up HSBC, for example, the call centre could be anywhere in the world. There's also these amazing examples of students in America, high school students in America, outsourcing their homework and paying accountants in India to do their homework overnight. This works out very well because of the time differences. So even students have been known to high school students have been known to outsource their homework to Indian accountants who do the homework and then return it electronically. No, please don't do this. It's not a good idea. Cheaters only cheat themselves. So as you said, we've got this concept of time-space convergence, and in popular culture, you are literally talking about the world shrinking in the amount of time that it takes to travel across it. Of course, we're not just talking about people, we're also talking about data. In the case of data, there really is no space. That data communication is interactive. But as well as people, we've also got products. We are going to go on to talk about the importance of the air network. I would warn you on this one. This, particularly when it comes to transporting products, is somewhat overstated. Of course, we can't really talk about time-space convergence without the growth of the airline network. Do remember that in networks, we're not just talking about, we're talking about nodes. That's in this case airports. We're talking about network capacity. That's the number of seats or aeroplanes between two nodes, between two cities. And we're also talking about network density. The real game changer was the 747 that introduced the concept of wide-body aircraft. That was picked up again later by Airbus and their A380. The market has moved on considerably, and now things has changed, and we're starting to move towards a system where the A380 and the 747 are finding it quite difficult to survive. The 747 and the A380 did provide that real spur for economic growth, growth in the airline network around the world, and it's created this business model. The interesting thing here is that this business model has moved on now, and now we're seeing a whole generation of narrow-body aircraft. A good example of this would be the A321, extra long range. This is a narrow-body aircraft. The ill-fated Boeing 737 MAX. Hopefully that's going to be safely back in the air sometime in the near future. But these aircraft have a lower passenger capacity. They are easier to fill because they have less seats, and they're highly efficient. But the real game changer here is the range that these aircraft have. So now here we're really talking about increasing the network density, or the communication between 2 points. So quite often, the link back to that one I would suggest to be Climate Action SDG 13, because the aircraft industry has a significant impact on this. Moving on, the real big changer when we're talking about flows of products are containers. Yes, some products are transported by aircraft, but most of the products are transported by container ships. These container ships are absolutely huge and have really changed the way that the products that we consume and it's really changed the industrial infrastructure and the geography of the industrial world. It's opened up those development opportunities for lots of other countries. It's given opportunity for that middle class to grow. It's given an opportunity for people to have decent jobs and economic growth. So these really are a game changer, and you really cannot understate the significance of the container network. That's not just from the point of view of the consumer, but also the point of view of the producer. It really has changed the world that we live in. The thing that you have to remember here as well is it's the size of these containers. So they are not particularly fast, certainly when we compare them to air travel, but for non-perishable goods, speed is not actually that important. When you buy an imported product, no matter what your shop might say to you, the actual cost of importing it, even from the other side of the world, is minimal. We're looking at $2 or $3 to transport a flat screen TV, for example. We're talking about pennies when it comes to transporting a pair of jeans from the other side of the world. It really can be quite difficult to understand how huge some of these container ships are. So the largest one is the OOCL in Hong Kong, and so this is known as a ultra large container ship. It carries 21,000 shipping containers. And when we're talking about a shipping container, that is what you would see on the back of the lorry. So put that into perspective, 21,000 full-size lorries are transporting these products. Or if you look at it in another way, if you take the area in square feet that is available in these containers, you are probably looking at in the region of 10,000 average size Hong Kong apartments on just one ship if you look at floor area. So this is absolutely massive. Hey guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. They do take some time to do, but if they help you, they really are worth it. That's why I really do appreciate it if you give it a thumbs up. If you recommend my channel to your friends in other schools, that would also be fantastic. Comments are always appreciated, and it's always nice to have people subscribe to my channel. Thanks very much, guys.